Before I get started, can we all just agree on one thing? This show has some of the best opening credit sequences in television history. I mean, this is an entire production. The stone-faced dance choreography and the awesome rock music behind it. It is some of the most tone-worthy, tone-setting openings in any television show. And in my opinion, in terms of TV openings, it goes Game of Thrones, Doctor Who. Peacemaker was created by James Gunn, the twisted mind behind both Guardians of the Galaxy movies and last year's The Suicide Squad, and stars John Cena, Freddie Stroma, and Danielle Brooks. After recovering from the injuries he sustained in Corto Maltese, Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, returns to his hometown, reunites with his old friends, his old family, and a special ops team who recruits him to help them with a mysterious mission known as Project Butterfly. I don't know if a lot of you know this, but I am a huge nerd. So obviously I loved last year's The Suicide Squad, and it was one of my favorite movies to come out in 2021. And although I loved each and every single character in the entire cast, I never really loved Peacemaker as much as I loved some of the other characters like King Shark and Bloodsport. So when they announced that he was getting his own spin-off show, I was just sort of questioning just the logic of it all. And just judging from the trailers, it seemed like my skepticism was going to be well warranted. So after watching the entirety of season 1, all 8 episodes of the show so far, was the skepticism that I had at the beginning met? Honestly, no. This is a super fun show. Dumb? Absolutely. Fun? Hell yes. Okay, so what's so much fun about the show? Well, for one thing, it's hilarious. True, the jokes are very juvenile and they can be easy to just scoff at initially, but like with most of James Gunn's brand of comedy, underneath that juvenile nature, there is something clever to it. Whether it's a joke that comes back into play later on or sets up the personalities of our main characters and their dynamics with each other, it's the type of comedy that your inner 12-year-old can love with the type of payoff to appeal to your more mature side. Also, the action in this show is awesome. Not only is the choreography wholly creative, but the camera is so dynamic and flows with the movements of the characters and their impacts with the wall and their fists. You really do feel a sense of the fact that you're in the middle of this action sequences with them. And it's almost like you can feel the pain whenever someone's gets flipped onto a table or something like that. Also, the acting in this show is surprisingly great. Each member of the cast brings their own chemistry to their roles, adding a little flair to their already fun characters. Myrn and Harcourt are great as the stick in the muds with dry comedy and the straight man routine throughout the entire show. Economos is amazing as the tech support, who tries to pull off a lot of that dry humor that Myrn and Harcourt do, but just comes off more of a softie. Adebayo in the show is just so sweet and innocent, and you really do empathize with her throughout the entire show. But the real standouts of this show is John Cena and Freddie Stroma as Peacemaker and Vigilante. Both not only have so much energy and such great comedic timing that half the time you can just put their characters on screen together with no script and get comedic gold out of the two of them, but they also have a lot of quiet scenes where they're allowed to show off their more dramatic and emotional sides. Just from their expressions, you do get a real feeling of heartbreak and empathy for them. In fact, the entire cast and the script really do have a lot of really quiet, dramatic scenes that really do build character and do make you feel for the friendship between them all. I don't think it's a compliment that this show is going to get a lot of whenever anyone else reviews it, but I think it needs to be said because it does help build chemistry, build character, and build empathy for pretty much every single character in this entire show. Not to mention the fact that the soundtrack in this show is awesome. I know this feels sort of tacked on, but it's a James Gunn soundtrack, so I think that goes without saying. So yeah, this show is a ton of fun. But is it stupid? Oh, yeah. The show is ungodly dumb, and there are definitely problems with it. For one thing, there are plenty of moments where it does feel like the comedy goes on for too long. At first, it's a very funny scene, but then the actors start to ad-lib more and more and more and more and more. And although I'm not against ad-libbing to this extent and keeping it in the show just gets annoying after a while. There are also episodes that do feel slower than others. I think it's because those are the episodes that build more character and focus less on action. And while I'm not against character building episodes and more quiet and serene episodes, for as quiet and serene as Peacemaker can go, it is noticeably slower in pace than the more action-packed episodes that also have character development within them. And my last problem is also a problem that I've been noticing more and more throughout streaming service shows, especially streaming service superhero shows, that being having too much. At the very beginning of a show, the writers will set up multiple plot points, each having their own antagonists that need to be dealt with. However, because these shows have only a 10-episode season max, most of those plot points and characters fall by the wayside, leading to either rushed and unsatisfying conclusions or elements that are just completely forgotten about. This happened a lot of time in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it does happen here. And while it doesn't happen here to the extent that Falcon and the Winter Soldier did all of this, it is here to an extent. But with all that being said, those are really my only big problems with the show, and they're the only big problems that I'm willing to admit, because I just had a blast with this show. Yeah, sometimes the comedy drags, and the pacing of a lot of the show can be a bit all over the place, but there was never an episode that I didn't, at the very least, wholeheartedly enjoy. The characters were all likable with a ton of depth to each of them. Most of the jokes are hilarious, the action is insane, the soundtrack is awesome, and the entire cast do have a ton of great chemistry with each other, and really did surprise me with how emotionally invested I got into both their performances and the writing of the characters. I feel like I have to reiterate what I said with Book of Boba Fett from last week, because even though Peacemaker as a character was not someone that I really got invested in, I actually really got invested in his show and ended up really enjoying it. It's dumb fun, sure, but it's fun nonetheless, and I'm going to give Peacemaker Season 1 an A-. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, which character from the 2021 Suicide Squad would you like to also get their own spin-off show? I know a lot of you might say Bloodsport or Ratcatcher 2, but for my money, I would kill to have a buddy show between Weasel and King Shark. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys are the best. And don't forget to click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.